The Death Kiss from 1932 starred a number of actors from the 1931 Dracula movie, namely Bela Lugosi, David Manners, and Edward Van Sloan. Now, going into this, I was just looking at it high level on the Internet Movie Database, and I see a bunch of actors from Dracula, as well as the eerie movie posters, and I think, hey, this is probably something creepy and mysterious with Bela, and it's going to be awesome. But truth be told, this was just surprisingly an enjoyable murder mystery with some fun twists and turns. And it really keeps you guessing all the way up to the very end. I really enjoyed this film. Well, the film opens up, and we're a film within a film. We're inside Tone Art Studios' production of a movie called The Death Kiss. So the name of the movie we're watching is the name of the movie being filmed in the movie. Crazy stuff. Well, anyhow, they're filming a scene, and would you know it, during the shooting of this one scene, somebody dies from a prop gun that was accidentally loaded. Well, Bela Lugosi plays the character Steiner, the movie studio producer who shows up, and detectives are called, and they're led by Lieutenant Sheehan, who is played by John Ray. He's an actor I've seen before in films like Dr. X. He was one of the weird brain-grafting scientists, I think. Also noteworthy is that we briefly see Edward Van Sloan in this film as character Tom Avery, the director of the film in the film. Now, he was, of course, Van Helsing in the original Dracula. Well, there's a crime that's taken place, and they start their investigation. However, the character of Frank is introduced. He's actor David Manners. He was in Dracula as well. And he's a studio writer and also something of an amateur detective who takes on the investigation to see what happened. And honestly, he's really the star of this film. Got an easygoing manner as he's digging around for clues with his friend, Officer Gulliver, who is played by Vince Barnett. He's this goofy guy who's the head of the studio security. So the two of them are doing a lot of their investigating, and he's sort of the humor of the film. And I thought the two of them made a fun pair in their investigation. Actress Adrienne Ames plays the gorgeous actress Marcia, who's in the film here as well as the love interest of this character Frank. Well, Frank suggested the first thing that they should do is watch the footage that had been filmed during the shooting, maybe to get some idea of what happened. And they do so, but right at the moment that the gun would have gone off, there's a burst of color on the screen. So yeah, this is a black and white film, but they use some color effects momentarily. I think they hand colored in some yellows and reds. It's kind of neat. And basically, there's a big cloud of smoke, and the film has been destroyed. Somebody has set it on fire, and we find the cameraman is laying on the ground. He's been clubbed on the head. So who has messed with the film and why? Well, the investigation continues, and while snooping around and investigating, Frank discovers a gun hidden in a studio light. But he himself is clubbed on the head by someone mysteriously. And Frank recovers, as, most head injuries in movies are no big deal. And he goes on to continue his investigation. He speaks with the character Chalmers, who had been recently fired as the head gaffer, the electrician. But at his home, he's found dead with a suicide note and some poison in his drink. But, investigating things aren't adding up for Frank, and he goes snooping around, and he remains suspicious. And Officer Gulliver is still investigating with him at this point. And I love the scenes where they find this old-fashioned ice box, with an actual chunk of ice in it. That's awesome for the 1930s. I guess refrigerator technology was still in its infancy or something. Well, in fact, they actually show the back door of the house where, there's like the door for the delivery of the ice, where the Iceman would make the delivery. All right, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. I like old stuff like that. It amuses me. Well, Frank and Gulliver track down a car with a drained battery, and Frank suspects that some of these battery chemicals may have been used for the murder. He meets with Marcia and urges her to leave town until this mystery is solved, because she's sort of a suspect as well. And sure enough, his investigation continues, and this leads up to a grand reveal. And you know what? No spoilers here. You need to check this one out for yourself. Nothing was what I expected really going into this, and I thought the final reveal was awesome, and unexpected too. So some closing thoughts. Far from being a spooky monster film, this was just a straight-up whodunit murder mystery, and it was really a lot of fun. It was directed by Edwin L. Marin, and this was his directorial debut. David Manners was excellent as the lead in this film. And, maybe it's just me, but from time to time, I thought he resembled actor John Hamm. His character really just has that kind of easygoing, cheeky attitude when he's bantering with the other detectives. And I thought there was really a fun interaction between him and that goofy studio officer Gulliver. So while researching the film, I found out that, after Dracula from 1931, Bela Lugosi was fairly popular, but instead of just seeking out more ghoulish monster roles, he picked every sort of opportunity he could find. And this isn't necessarily a monster role for him here. And in fact, minor spoiler, he's not even in the film all that much. But the scenes with him are, of course, great. I really do enjoy him as an actor. Honestly, not much else to say about this one. I really enjoyed it. It's a fun murder mystery with an entertaining story, good acting, and it's nice to see those three Dracula actors again in considerably different roles here. I believe the film is in the public domain. I did a search of it. You can find it all over the place. There's a couple copies parked on YouTube. That's A Death Kiss from 1932. It is a great film. It's worth checking out.